I'm Johnny, creative producer, creative executive, and writer over at Open Doors. And this is Amal, DJ and producer, coming to you from DC.
Yes, sir.
Let's get started with the easy question. Just tell me, who is Amal? Is that a stage name? Is that your real name? Where are you from?
Well, I guess the short story would be I'm from DC, from Silver Spring, Maryland to DC. But Amal's my actual name. I've gone by a ton of really bad names before that, kind of like every artist does. I was originally born in Boston. My dad's family's from New York, and then my mom's family's from West Africa. Lived overseas for a bit, so I've kind of been around.
Word. I also saw another name on your socials when I was checking you out. Soundboy. Who's that? Is that an alternative name, or is that a homie shouting out, or?
Nah, it's kind of like a little joke. One of the tags I have is like an old like drum and bass raga tag where he's like Soundboy, and like I've kind of always been like the sound guy because I have a background in doing live sound engineering and stuff, and also being a producer. I always end up being like the sound guy for all my artistic friends and stuff. So it's just kind of a little homage to that.
So why did you ultimately decide on Amal and you didn't keep on kind of going the route of trying out different names?
It's what I started with, and it felt natural, like it kind of, everything led back to that, I felt like the most comfortable as Amal. And that doesn't mean like I'm not gonna maybe drop music under other ulterior names or whatever, alter egos, but to be honest, bro, I've spent a lot of time under different names and like trying different things. And it's that moment where you hear someone else say it and you're like, oh God, that's stupid. And so that's what's led me back. I spent a lot of the past couple of years as Cozy Bob. That was like my rap name for like when I did rap and trap music and stuff like that. So there's a lot of Cozy Bob stuff on the internet too. But the switch up was this past year when I started making more dance oriented music and kind of become my own artist,
Word. And you mentioned your dad's from Africa. I didn't know that. So like how did tell me a little bit how like having a father who's not from here impacts like kind of your creative development growing up. Did it make a difference, or did it influence you in a beneficial way?
Yeah, it's actually my mom. My bad.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
It's all good. But I mean, my dad might as well have been from Africa. He spent a ton of years over there and stuff, and pretty much like an African dad at this point too. But yeah, it. I mean, I guess because I grew up in an area like DC that's so international, I never felt like out of place in that way. Because there's a lot of like kids here from different, backgrounds that moved around. But I always felt like, I had that identity of being West African. And, my parents had me traveling from a young age, dude. I was like 8 months old the first time I got on a plane to go over there and like visit and stuff. And it's weird because, when you're like in the music industry, you have all that, and it is what it is, but then you go back to your family and, you're this kid that's like, has this culture with him, and it's kind of like humbling in a way, kind of gives me a sense of self having that culture. And then also, having an American culture, you just learn to, you learn to adapt, but I love it, man. I love being African, and it shows in my music and my music taste and stuff. And I spent 5 years living overseas in East Africa, actually. So,
really?
So like, I lived in Rwanda and Kenya.
Word.
Middle school and like part of high school there, and that's kind of like where I got my taste for music. Living in a major city like Nairobi, it's a lot like New York, where it's just like you had your boroughs of like mixed people. Just like it's weird, man. There's like a Korean neighborhood in Nairobi in East Africa. There's like a French neighborhood, an Israeli neighborhood, Indian. And so like, I'm like 13, 14, running around, going to these parties and clubs and stuff, and hearing all types of music. Like, to put it in perspective, dude, like I went to a British school that was like 2/3 Korean and like a quarter like French, and then like partially Kenyan. And that
Word,
like that was
word,
like a normal day. Like
word,
and
word.
I'm
But I'm
like,
sure.
just like, all right.
Yeah, but I mean, I know just from the the time we spent hanging out together that that's definitely made you an interesting guy, though. So.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Experience. Yeah.
But that kind of brings me down another vein of thought is how has that impacted you in the sense that like I've checked out your social media as I kind of like mentioned before, and I noticed that you don't really have much on there. You're a bit of a mysterious guy when it comes to the interwebs. Can you talk a little bit about that? And is that reflective of you as a person, you as an artist? Does that have anything to do with like this kind of like experience that you had?
Yeah, I mean, I think it more so has to do with me kind of focusing on the music and kind of like making that the center point of Amal, because in the past, I think a big part of it is just because me being Amal is so new that there's not as much to see. But when I was, Cozy Bob or whatever other name I had before, it didn't feel real. It didn't feel natural. And it was almost like too much about the image at times, which is like very easy for an artist in
Yeah,
this to get to. So I kind of made it a thing to be a bit more like, here's my music, here's a picture of me, and focus on now. Like, as you can see, like on Instagram, I got like 3 posts up now, and that's like the most recent stuff. And I kind of just do that to give you the meat, give you the stuff that like is important, and kind of keep it concise and cut to the chase.
word, I feel you. And honestly, that might be a better route. You feel me? Like sometimes artists can get lost in that personality, as you just said. You know what I mean? You get wrapped up in that and forget who you are. So I like the vibes and the thought process you put into that. Going off that and digging a little bit deeper, while your social media might be barren, there is a group that I found that's kind of connected to you called Room House. Can you tell me about that? What is that?
Yeah, Room is it's run by a couple of guys, friends of mine, Mustafa and AV, in DC, and they run a mixed series of local DC, New York based as well DJs that just do like an hour-long mix that they put on their page. And they're also a visual house, so they do a lot of like live visuals and stuff, and just cool like post-futuristic design stuff. So it's always fun. But I've just been friends with them for a while, and they put out my first DJ mix as a mall, and it got like a lot of love. So they asked me to put out a project. So I'm like their first artist as a label to put out a project.
I feel it. Since we're on the topic, do you want to kind of talk about your debut project with them? It came out the first quarter of this year, right? If I'm not mistaken, called
Yeah.
Dance Concept. You want
Yep.
to, elaborate on what the idea behind Dance Concept is? What is Dance Concept? You said it's for the city, so what does that mean?
So I came up with Dance Concept as like a start to a discussion of DC dance music and people releasing dance music from DC and what that would sound like. Everything on that project is like named after things that I experienced living there. For example, like DTS is downtown Silver Spring. It's where I grew up. 990s, 574s are pairs of New Balance shoes that are like staple to like DC nightlife and fashion and stuff like that. And I have a song on there called Free Judo. Who's like my friend who's locked up right now, but it's like an ode to him. But everything kind of has a meaning on that project to DC, and I kind of like my letter to the art scene here as like, hey, we can release music and it's a culture. We have something here, and it's time to show it to the world. And so that was kind of like my idea behind it.
Word, man. But I just want to say that we really appreciate, you coming on the platform, speaking to us, giving us this interview. Appreciate all the advice that you just gave the audience.
Thanks for
I
having
think it's going to help a lot of people. But yeah, I think that's all I really have for you today. So.
Hell yeah.
Deuces.